The alien probe pierced Queen Elena's skin before she could react. Ambassador Zethkar's crystalline hand held the device steady against her wrist, his compound eyes reflecting the throne room's harsh lights. The court froze. 20 guards reached for weapons that protocol forbade them to draw in the presence of foreign diplomacy. Elena felt the probe's cold metal against her pulse point. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the device hummed with alien technology. Zethkar's translator crackled, filling the silence with mechanical words that would change everything. Pulse confirmed. Bond initiated. Marriage proposal accepted. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena's breath caught as the probe retracted with a soft click. Around the throne room, 24 faces stared at her with expressions ranging from horror to confusion. General Morrison's hand hovered over his sidearm. The Terran Council members shifted in their seats like trapped animals. "I beg your pardon." Elena's voice came out steadier than she felt. The probe had left a small red mark on her wrist, barely visible but somehow burning like a brand. Zethkar tilted his elongated head, mandibles clicking in what their cultural briefings had described as pleasure. "Your life rhythm has been measured and found compatible. By the ancient codes of the Zephyrian Collective, your acceptance of pulse bonding constitutes formal agreement to mate union." The throne room erupted. Councilmember Hayes shot to his feet, his voice cutting through the chaos. "This is completely unacceptable. The Queen submitted to no such silence." Elena raised one hand and the room obeyed instantly. 20 years of rule had taught her the power of absolute authority. Her mind raced through implications while her face remained perfectly composed. The Zephyrian fleet hung in Earth's orbit. 300 massive ships carrying weapons that could glass continents. This delegation represented humanity's only chance at peaceful contact with the galaxy's most powerful empire. Elena had agreed to the meeting despite every security protocol screaming against it. The Zephyrians had demanded personal contact with Earth's highest authority. No intermediaries, no proxies, the Queen or nuclear annihilation. She studied Zethkar's alien features, searching for deception or misunderstanding. The cultural reports had been incomplete, rushed translations of fragments intercepted from long-range communications. Humanity knew almost nothing about Zephyrian customs beyond their military might and their expansion across 12-star systems. "Explain this bonding ritual," she commanded. Zethkar's secondary arms gestured in complex patterns. "Among my people, the measurement of another's pulse is the highest form of courtship. To allow such intimate contact demonstrates trust, compatibility, and romantic intent. Your submission to the probe confirms your acceptance of matrimonial union." Elena felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Every decision carried the survival of her species. The mark on her wrist throbbed like a warning. "I was not aware of this cultural significance," she said carefully. "Among humans, pulse measurement is a medical procedure. Cultural ignorance does not void sacred bonds." Zethkar's voice carried absolute certainty. "The marriage compact has been witnessed by your court. To refuse now would constitute the gravest insult to the collective. Such dishonor demands correction." The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Elena had seen the orbital scans. The Zephyrian weapons could crack Earth's crust. Billions would die before the first evacuation ship left the atmosphere. General Morrison stepped forward, his movements controlled, despite the fury radiating from every line of his body. "Your Majesty, we cannot allow—" I said silence. Elena's voice carried the weight of absolute command. She had not survived 2 decades of rule by allowing others to make decisions for her, even in crisis, especially in crisis. She looked at Zethkar with new understanding. The probe hadn't been a medical scan. It had been a proposal. A test. Perhaps both. "What would this marriage compact entail?" she asked. "Full integration of human space into the collective. Your species would gain protection, technology, and access to galactic trade networks. In exchange, you would serve as my mate and political partner in administering the expansion." The offer was staggering. Everything humanity had dreamed of since the first telescope turned skyward. But the price was her freedom, her humanity, her life. Elena stood from her throne, every eye in the room tracking her movement. The Zephyrian delegation watched with predatory patience. Her own people waited for salvation or destruction. "I need time to consider this proposal properly," she said. "Time is not available." Zethkar's mandibles clicked rapidly. "The bonding probe has activated dormant genetic sequences in your biology. The process cannot be reversed after the third solar rotation of your world. You will complete the union, or you will die, as will your species. For the insult of a broken bond, 3 days. Elena calculated rapidly. 72 hours to find a solution that didn't exist. The probe's mark seemed to burn brighter, as if responding to her racing pulse. The queen of humanity stood trapped between impossible choices, while an alien fleet waited in the darkness above Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Sarah Chen burst into the medical bay 3 hours after the delegation's departure, her face pale with discovery. Elena sat on the examination table as royal physicians took endless blood samples and scans, searching for the genetic changes Zethkar had described. "Your Majesty, we've analyzed the probe's effects." Sarah's hands shook as she displayed the results on the wall screen. "The device injected nanoscale organisms into your bloodstream. They're rewriting your DNA at the cellular level." Elena studied the microscopic images with clinical detachment. The alien organisms moved through her blood like tiny machines, attaching to chromosomes and altering genetic sequences with mechanical precision. "How long do I have?" she asked. "The changes are accelerating." Dr. Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead despite the room's chill. "At current rates, the transformation will become irreversible within 60 hours. After that," he gestured helplessly at the screen. Elena nodded. She had felt the changes beginning already. A strange sensitivity to light and sound. A metallic taste that no amount of water could wash away. Her heart rate had increased by 15%, pumping the alien nanites through her system with each beat. General Morrison paced behind the medical team like a caged predator. "We have to evacuate you from the planet, get you to the deep space medical facility and abandon 7 billion people to alien retaliation?" Elena's voice cut through his desperation. "The Zephyrian fleet would glass Earth before our ship cleared the atmosphere. You know this, General." Admiral Foster spoke from the corner, his weathered face grim with calculation. "Our finest scientists are working on a solution. Professor Williams believes she can synthesize a counteragent if we can decode the nanite programming." "In 60 hours!" Elena laughed, but the sound held no humor. "Sarah, show me the detailed analysis." Dr. Chen hesitated. "Your Majesty, perhaps you should rest while we show me." The data painted a horrifying picture. The nanites were sophisticated beyond human understanding. Biological machines millions of years advanced. They rewrote genetic code with surgical precision, preparing Elena's biology for integration with Zephyrian physiology. Elena studied the projections with growing understanding. The process wasn't just changing her. It was creating something new. Part human, part Zephyrian. A hybrid, being capable of bridging two species. "The marriage isn't just political," she murmured. "It's biological. They need me to survive the bonding process."
"What do you mean?"
Morrison stopped pacing. Elena looked at her advisors with sudden clarity. "Zethkar isn't just proposing marriage for political reasons. The genetic modifications aren't random. They're preparing me for something specific. Physical compatibility with Zephyrian biology." She pulled up the alien physiology reports, comparing them to her own transformation patterns. The nanites were adjusting her nervous system, cardiovascular function, and cellular structure to match Zephyrian parameters. "They can't reproduce with unmodified humans," she continued. "The biological barriers are too great. But with these changes, the implications struck the room like a bomb." Elena felt the weight of understanding settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just about marriage or political alliance. The Zephyrians needed human genetic material, but their biology required extensive modifications to make crossbreeding possible. "How many other species have they absorbed this way?" she asked quietly. The question hung in the air unanswered. Elena stood from the examination table, her mind racing through possibilities. The nanites pulsed through her veins like liquid fire, counting down to transformation. "Your Majesty," Admiral Foster said carefully, "what are you thinking?" Elena looked at the genetic projection again, studying the timeline of changes. "I'm thinking that Zethkar may have made a mistake. These modifications work both ways. If I can survive the transformation, I'll have access to Zephyrian biology, their weaknesses as well as their strengths." General Morrison stepped forward. "You can't seriously be considering going through with this. I'm considering survival." Elena's voice carried the weight of absolute command. "For myself and for humanity. Sarah, I want you to monitor every stage of the transformation. Document everything. If I don't survive this, the next person who faces this choice will have better information." "Your Majesty, there has to be another way. In 60 hours? With a fleet of 300 ships hanging over our heads?" Elena shook her head. "We're going to play their game, but we're going to play it better than they expect." She walked to the window overlooking the palace gardens. Somewhere in the darkness above, alien minds planned humanity's future. Elena touched the probe mark on her wrist, feeling the alien nanites spreading through her system like a slow poison. The countdown had begun. Princess Catherine burst into Elena's private chambers at midnight. Her usual composure shattered. Tears streamed down her 18-year-old face as she threw herself into her mother's arms. "Mother, you can't do this!" Catherine's voice broke on the words. "There has to be another way." Elena held her daughter close, feeling the girl's familiar warmth against her transforming body. The nanites had worked throughout the day, and Elena could feel the changes accelerating. Her skin felt different, thicker, more sensitive to temperature. Her vision had sharpened to inhuman levels. "Catherine, look at me." Elena gently lifted her daughter's chin. "I need you to be strong. Whatever happens in the next 2 days, humanity will need leadership they can trust. I'm not ready to be queen." Catherine's voice was small, lost. "I'm just a child." "You stopped being just a child when the Zephyrian fleet appeared above our world." Elena smoothed her daughter's hair with hands that trembled slightly. "Your great-grandmother was 16 when she took the throne during the resource wars. Your grandmother was 19 when the climate crisis nearly destroyed civilization. Royal blood carries responsibility, Catherine. It always has." Catherine pulled back, studying her mother's face with growing alarm. "Your eyes are different. They're brighter." She had noticed the changes in the mirror. Her brown eyes now held flecks of crystalline blue, and her pupils had developed a slight vertical elongation. "The transformation is progressing faster than Dr. Chen predicted." "Then we stop it." Catherine's voice carried sudden steel. "We find a way to reverse the process and trigger a war that would kill billions?" Elena shook her head. "Catherine, sometimes leadership means making choices that destroy us personally to save everyone else." They sat in silence as the palace clock chimed 1 in the morning. Elena felt each nanite spreading through her system, rewriting genetic codes that had been stable for thousands of years. Her heart rate had increased another 10%. Soon, she would need significantly more oxygen than human lungs could provide. "Tell me about the psychological profiles," Elena said suddenly. Catherine wiped her eyes. "The xenopsychology team finished their analysis this afternoon. Zethkar's behavior patterns suggest extreme cultural rigidity. He genuinely believes humans should be honored by the marriage proposal. In his mind, we're a primitive species, being offered elevation to galactic significance." Elena nodded. She had suspected as much from their interaction in the throne room. What else? Ambassador Thrixel maintains protective distance from Zethkar. Williams thinks there might be factional politics in the delegation. Not all Zephyrians may support this approach to human integration. This was new information. Elena felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. What kind of factions? Unknown. The linguistic barriers are still too significant for detailed psychological analysis, but body language suggests tension between different delegation members. Elena stood and walked to her private study. The royal archives contained thousands of years of diplomatic history. Every successful negotiation, every peaceful resolution of seemingly impossible conflicts. She pulled down volume after volume, searching for precedent. Help me research this, she told Catherine. Marriage diplomacy between conflicting civilizations. Look for patterns, successful strategies, historical precedents. They worked through the night as Elena's transformation continued. Her fingers had developed a slight blue tinge, and her reflexes had become unnaturally quick, but her mind remained clear, focused on the impossible puzzle of survival. At dawn, they found what they were looking for. Catherine discovered it in a historical account of the Meridian Crisis, 300 years before Earth's unification. Mother, look at this. Catherine spread the ancient document across the desk. The Meridian Alliance faced a similar situation, forced marriage between royal houses to prevent war. But the marriage contract contained reciprocal obligations. Elena read quickly, her enhanced vision processing the text with startling speed. The bride's family retained veto power over major political decisions. Both parties had to consent to territorial expansion or military action. It created a balance of power instead of simple absorption, Catherine continued. The marriage became a genuine partnership because both sides needed the other's approval for significant actions. Elena felt the first real hope since the probe had pierced her skin. Zethkar spoke of me becoming his political partner in administering expansion, but he didn't specify the terms of that partnership. The Zephyrians might not understand human contract law, Catherine said excitedly. If we can introduce reciprocal obligations without seeming to challenge their cultural supremacy, we might survive this with some degree of autonomy intact. Elena stood, her mind racing through possibilities. The nanites pulsed through her system, but for the first time since the transformation began, she felt like she might be able to fight back. 24 hours remained. Elena stood before the full council as her transformation entered its final phase. Her skin held the distinctly blue tint now, and her enhanced vision picked up electromagnetic spectra. The changes were becoming impossible to hide. The marriage contract has been prepared, she announced, her voice carrying new harmonic undertones that resonated strangely in the chamber. But we've introduced several modifications based on historical precedent. Councilmember Hayes leaned forward. What kind of modifications, Your Majesty? Elena gestured to Catherine, who activated the main display. The contract filled the wall in both human script and the flowing alien characters of Zephyrian formal language. Reciprocal veto authority over military expansion, Elena read. Mutual consent requirements for territorial integration. Joint oversight of technological transfer. Shared command structure for collective forces in human space. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. General Morrison stood slowly. Your Majesty, will Zethkar accept these terms? He'll accept them if we present them correctly. Elena's enhanced hearing picked up conversations throughout the room with startling clarity. The key is framing these provisions as evidence of human sophistication, not challenges to Zephyrian authority. Admiral Foster studied the contract carefully. These clauses would give us significant leverage. Perhaps even the ability to resist future expansion attempts. That's the theory. Elena felt the nanites completing their work, fundamentally altering her biology at the cellular level. In 6 hours, the changes would become irreversible. But first, I have to survive the bonding ceremony. Doctor, Chen entered the chamber, her face pale with recent discoveries. Your Majesty, we've made a breakthrough in understanding the nanite programming. The genetic modifications aren't just preparing you for marriage. They're preparing you for something called a consciousness merge. The room fell silent. Elena felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Explain. The Zephyrian bonding process involves temporary neurological connection between mates, complete sharing of thoughts, memories, emotions. It's how they ensure perfect compatibility and prevent deception. Elena absorbed this information with growing alarm. A consciousness merge would expose every human military secret, every strategic weakness, every plan for resistance. The Zephyrians would gain complete access to her mind. How long does this merge last? She asked. The historical data suggests anywhere from minutes to hours, depending on the participant's psychological compatibility. Minutes or hours of complete mental vulnerability. Elena calculated rapidly. If she could maintain some degree of conscious control during the merge, she might be able to gather intelligence about Zephyrian weaknesses, but the risk was enormous. There's more, Dr. Carr had said, Chen continued. The consciousness merge works both ways. You'll have access to his thoughts as well. The implications struck Elena like physical blows. During the bonding ceremony, she would gain unprecedented access to Zephyrian psychology, strategic thinking, and potentially military secrets. If she could survive the experience without revealing humanity's defensive capabilities, Your Majesty, General Morrison said carefully, the risk levels... The risk level is the same as it's always been, Elena interrupted. The survival of our species. The only question is whether we meet that challenge passively or actively. She looked at each council member in turn. These people had served humanity faithfully for decades. Now they watched their queen prepare to sacrifice everything for a chance at species survival. I want full psychological preparation, Elena commanded. Mental conditioning techniques, meditation protocols, anything that might help me maintain partial control during the consciousness merge. And I want detailed questions prepared about Zephyrian weaknesses and military capabilities. Catherine stepped forward. Mother, let me take your place. The nanites might work on me too. No. Elena's voice carried absolute finality. This is my responsibility, my decision, and my risk to take. You'll have your own battles to fight as queen, assuming I don't survive this one. The clock showed 4 hours until the ceremony. Elena felt the alien modifications completing their work throughout her body. Her nervous system had been rewired for compatibility with Zephyrian neurology. Her cardiovascular system pumped, enhanced blood through modified organs. She was becoming something new, something between human and alien. But her mind remained her own. For now. The ceremony chamber blazed with alien lighting that Elena's modified eyes found comfortable rather than harsh. Zethkar waited at the center of the room, surrounded by crystalline devices that hummed with electromagnetic energy. The entire Zephyrian delegation formed a circle around the bonding equipment, their compound eyes reflecting the harsh illumination like mirrors. Elena entered wearing the modified crown of Earth's monarchy, her transformed biology finally stable after 48 hours of continuous change. Her skin held a permanent blue tint now, and her enhanced senses picked up electromagnetic readings from every piece of alien technology in the room. The marriage candidate presents herself for bonding, Zethkar announced, his mandibles clicking in ritualistic patterns. Have the contractual obligations been properly prepared? Elena stepped forward, her heartbeat steady despite the magnitude of the moment. The marriage contract has been prepared according to both human and Zephyrian legal tradition. She gestured to Catherine, who carried a sealed document case. Zethkar accepted the contract with his secondary arms while his primary limbs operated the bonding equipment. Elena watched him scan the human-prepared document, his compound eyes moving in complex patterns as he processed the legal language. She held her breath as he reached the reciprocal authority clauses. The nanites had enhanced her ability to read alien body language, and she detected subtle tension in his posture as he absorbed the implications of shared military command. These provisions are unexpected, he said slowly. Human legal tradition requires mutual consent in marriage contracts, Elena replied calmly. My legal advisor believes Zephyrian custom would appreciate the sophisticated nature of reciprocal authority structures. She was gambling everything on alien pride. If Zethkar interpreted the contract modifications as evidence of human sophistication rather than resistance, he might accept them to demonstrate Zephyrian appreciation for complex legal thinking. Zethkar's mandibles clicked in what Elena hoped was approval. The candidate demonstrates appropriate understanding of partnership obligations. The contract satisfies bonding requirements. The first hurdle was cleared. Elena felt a surge of hope as Zethkar sealed the document with alien technology that bonded the paper at the molecular level. The contract was now legally binding under both human and Zephyrian law. Prepare for consciousness merge, Zethkar commanded. Elena approached the bonding apparatus as her enhanced vision analyzed its construction. Crystalline probes connected to electromagnetic field generators. Neural interface cables that would link her modified nervous system directly to Zethkar's alien neurology. The technology was beautiful and terrifying. She lay down on the bonding platform as the Zephyrian technicians attached the interface cables to specific points on her skull. The nanites in her bloodstream resonated with the alien technology, creating direct pathways between her consciousness and the machine. The merge will begin slowly, Zethkar explained as he connected to his own set of neural interfaces. Thoughts will flow between us gradually. Resistance will cause significant pain for both participants. Elena nodded, her mind focused on the questions General Morrison had prepared. Strategic information about Zephyrian fleet capabilities, intelligence about political factions within the collective, anything that might give humanity leverage in the years to come. The bonding apparatus activated with a harmonic hum that Elena felt in her bones. Electromagnetic energy flooded her modified nervous system as the consciousness merge began. Zethkar's mind touched hers, like ice water. Elena's consciousness exploded into alien awareness as Zethkar's thoughts crashed into hers like a tsunami. For a terrifying moment, she lost all sense of human identity. Her mind became a swirling chaos of compound vision, electromagnetic perception, and thought patterns that operated on completely different principles than human psychology. She fought to maintain some core of self-awareness as Zethkar's memories flooded through her consciousness. Images of the collective's expansion across 12 star systems, the absorption of species after species through forced marriage diplomacy, worlds stripped of resources and populations converted into hybrid servants. But underneath Zethkar's surface thoughts, Elena detected something unexpected: fear. The Zephyrian collective was not the unified empire it appeared to be. Political factions fought constantly for strategic advantage. Military resources were stretched thin across too many conquered systems. And, most importantly, the forced integration process was failing with increasing frequency. Elena pushed deeper into Zethkar's subconscious, following threads of anxiety and doubt. The nanite modifications in her brain allowed her to process alien thought patterns with startling efficiency. She discovered military weaknesses, resource shortages, and political vulnerabilities that could be exploited. But the merge worked both ways. Elena felt Zethkar probing her own memories, searching for human strategic information. She tried to direct his attention toward false data, manufactured memories of weaker military capabilities and smaller population centers. The effort was exhausting. Maintaining deception while gathering intelligence pushed her modified nervous system to its limits. Elena felt her human consciousness fragmenting under the strain of alien mental contact. Then, she touched something that changed everything. Deep in Zethkar's memory core, she found the truth about Zephyrian reproduction. The species was dying. Their natural birth rate had collapsed millennia ago due to genetic degradation from environmental toxins on their homeworld. Forced marriages with other species weren't about expansion, they were about survival. The Zephyrians needed hybrid offspring to maintain their population. Without constant genetic input from absorbed species, the collective would face extinction within a few generations. Elena absorbed this information while carefully shielding it from Zethkar's awareness. She was learning to navigate alien consciousness, using her human intuition to guide her through thought patterns that operated on completely different principles. As the merge continued, she discovered more critical intelligence. The collective's fleet was mostly automated. Actual Zephyrian personnel were minimal, perhaps a few thousand individuals controlling hundreds of ships through advanced AI systems. The appearance of overwhelming military superiority was largely an illusion maintained by sophisticated technology. But most importantly, she learned about the consciousness merge itself. The process created permanent neurological connections between bonded individuals. Even after the ceremony ended, she would retain limited access to Zethkar's thoughts, and he would have similar access to hers. Elena realized with growing excitement that this connection worked both ways across space. She would be able to monitor Zephyrian activities and intentions from anywhere in human space. The forced marriage was creating a permanent intelligence asset. As the merge reached its peak intensity, Elena made a crucial decision. Instead of continuing to resist Zethkar's mental presence, she embraced it. She allowed her consciousness to intertwine with his, creating the deep psychological bond that Zephyrian culture required for successful marriage. But she did it on her own terms. Elena used her human emotional flexibility to create genuine feelings of partnership and cooperation, not submission, partnership. She projected strength, intelligence, and strategic thinking that impressed rather than threatened Zethkar's alien psychology. By the time the consciousness merge completed, Elena had achieved something unprecedented in Zephyrian expansion history. She had created a genuine psychological bond based on mutual respect rather than dominated absorption. As the bonding apparatus powered down and the neural interfaces retracted, Elena sat up slowly. Her consciousness remained distinctly human, but she now carried a permanent connection to alien awareness. She could feel Zethkar's thoughts like a quiet whisper in the back of her mind. More importantly, she had gathered enough intelligence to ensure humanity's survival in galactic civilization. Zethkar looked at her with something approaching wonder in his compound eyes. "The bond is unlike any previous integration," he said slowly. "You remain yourself." "As do you," Elena replied, standing with newfound confidence. "Perhaps that's what true partnership means." The Zephyrian delegation exchanged rapid communications in harmonic frequencies that Elena's enhanced hearing could now partially understand. They were discussing the implications of a bonding that created partnership rather than absorption. Elena smiled, knowing that humanity had just gained its first real advantage in galactic politics. The marriage was complete, but the real negotiation was just beginning. 6 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of the orbital station that had become the joint headquarters of the Human Zephyrian Alliance. Earth turned slowly below, blue and peaceful and protected by a combined fleet that gave even the collective's aggressive neighbors pause. Catherine had adapted remarkably well to her role as Earth's planetary administrator. The psychological bond Elena maintained with Zethkar allowed for constant communication between the orbital headquarters and the surface, creating an unprecedented level of coordination between human and alien governance systems. "The Meridian negotiations are proceeding successfully," Ayla reported during the daily briefing. Her transformed physiology had stabilized into something uniquely suited for life in space, and her enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to process information from dozens of star systems simultaneously. Zethkar moved through the zero-gravity environment with fluid grace, his understanding of human psychology having grown considerably since their bonding. 3 additional species have requested integration negotiations. They prefer the partnership model to traditional absorption protocols. Elena smiled. The consciousness merge had created more than a marriage. It had created a new model for galactic diplomacy. Instead of forced absorption, the Alliance offered genuine partnership to species willing to contribute to collective defense and resource sharing. The change in Zephyrian policy had triggered political upheaval throughout the collective. Traditional factions viewed the human integration as dangerous precedent that undermined established authority. Progressive factions saw it as evolution beyond centuries of failed expansion strategies. Elena had learned to navigate these political currents with skills that surprised even herself. Her human intuition, enhanced by alien cognitive abilities and permanent access to Zephyrian strategic thinking, made her uniquely qualified to broker agreements between radically different species. Admiral Foster reports that the new hybrid technology integration is ahead of schedule, she continued. Human creativity, combined with Zephyrian engineering capabilities, has produced defensive systems that exceed both species' individual capabilities. This was the real victory. Humanity had not simply survived first contact. They had leveraged it into technological and political advancement that positioned Earth as a major player in galactic civilization. Elena looked at her reflection in the observation port's surface. Her transformation was complete now, her hybrid nature allowing her to function effectively in environments that would challenge either pure human or pure Zephyrian biology. But her mind remained recognizably human, enhanced rather than replaced by alien integration. The consciousness bond with Zethkar had evolved into genuine partnership. She could access his knowledge and strategic thinking while maintaining her own identity and loyalties. More importantly, her human perspective had influenced his development as well, introducing concepts of individual autonomy and democratic governance that were revolutionizing collective political theory. Catherine's voice crackled over the communication system. "Mother, the United Nations vote is complete. Unanimous approval for the Galactic Partnership Protocol. Humanity officially joins the Alliance as an equal member rather than an absorbed territory." Elena felt a surge of pride that resonated through the consciousness bond, creating an emotional feedback loop that Zethkar experienced as well. This was what successful partnership could accomplish: enhanced capabilities for all participants rather than domination by any single party. Excellent work, Catherine. How are the integration programs progressing on the surface? Better than projected. Zephyrian technology is solving climate problems we've struggled with for decades, and humans are developing approaches that make Alliance resource distribution far more efficient. The cultural exchange programs are particularly successful. Elena looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, other species faced the choice between resistance and integration with galactic civilization. The Alliance offered a third option now: partnership based on mutual benefit rather than forced submission. Zethkar moved to stand beside her at the observation port, his alien form no longer seeming strange or threatening. The consciousness bond allows unprecedented coordination between our species, he said. Other collective factions are requesting similar integration protocols. Then we'll help them develop those protocols, Elena replied. One species at a time, one partnership at a time. The probe mark on her wrist had faded months ago, but Elena could still remember the moment when everything changed. A simple pulse check that had been interpreted as a marriage proposal. A misunderstanding that had nearly triggered interstellar war. Instead, it had become the foundation for a new form of galactic civilization. Elena, queen of humanity and partner in the Zephyrian collective, looked out at the stars and smiled. The universe was vast and dangerous, full of species struggling for survival in an environment that offered few second chances. But humanity would not merely survive. Under Elena's guidance, they would thrive, explore, and help build a galactic society based on cooperation rather than conquest. The simple act of taking her pulse had led to humanity's greatest diplomatic victory. And it was only the beginning.